Third down and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 53 of the 3rd and 20 podcast. My name is Frank Entwistle. We've got the main man, the co-host himself, Mr. Steed. We got the new layout. Steed, what's going on? How you doing, dude?
Dude, I'm doing solid and ready for today's episode.
All right. This is like our 5th take trying to get this together. We've been having so many problems. So
yeah, I've said the same exact words every time too.
All right, let's get this going. I can finally get into this segment. I've been waiting like a week and a half to do this. Steelers offense analysis. How is this offense going to change under the new offensive coordinator Matt Canada? How is Najee Harris going to impact this offense? The Muth as well. A little cheeky second-round pick in the Muth. So let's get into it. First things first. Steelers offense major problem last year was that they were not able to run the football, right? It was weird for an 11-0 football team, them not being able to run the football for about 3/4 of the season. After the first handful of games, and even the first handful of games, it was not efficient, right? They were getting mitigated a ton. They still were able to get over 100 yards and be an average running football team. Second half of the season.
I remember Benny Snell had 100 yards rushing in that first game against the Giants, and then I really don't remember another 100-yard rusher from that point on from that season.
Yeah, they had 100 yards the first couple of games, and then after that, it was just disaster, right? I mean, they had 100 yards against the Texans, but everyone had 100 yards against the Texans.
Yeah.
But looking at Matt, so you fire Randy Finkner. Clearly, the MO with Matt Canada is get this rushing offense at least to average. Get Ben some help. Get the play-action game back because Ben can't do it all by himself. He's just not able to anymore. Maybe years ago he was able to, but you're not going to be able to win a Super Bowl on the back of a 39, 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. It's clear as day. He's just not able to hang in the pocket that long. So, this chart is showing Matt Canada's past offenses, all in college football. And it's clear, aside from 2013, running the football has been a huge priority for him. If we go to the percentage breakdowns, right, you've seen there are a couple offenses where 60% of their total yards, over 60%, is rushing yards, right? In 2012 with Wisconsin and 2018 with Maryland. 2016 and 2017 with Pittsburgh and LSU respectively, they had more rushing yards and passing yards. Yes, that was partly due to the personnel. Yes, that was partly due to the fact that in college football, you're just able to run the football easier than in the NFL. But this team needs to get back to running the football, and I'm hoping Matt Canada can do so. So how does he do it schematically? First things first. If you watch Matt Canada, if you've watched any of his previous games as an offensive coordinator, it is pre-snap movement city and post-snap movement. There isn't like an ass ton, and I mean like a metric ass ton of pre-snap movement in his offense. It's actually ridiculous. So here's a great example. 2016 against Clemson. This is Clemson's defense at its height, right? This is an insane Clemson defense. With all those dudes, Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence and Clelin Ferrell up front, right? So they just got like a 40-yard pass play, and they're gonna hurry up to the line of scrimmage, try to get them in a base defense. So then all of a sudden, okay, we're gonna change our front. We got a tackle over here lined up out wide. We got a tight end now at left tackle. Like, okay, really wacky look. So that you're gonna get their line to shift. Okay, let's go back. We don't like that. Let's go back. And we're going to have 2 tight ends now on the right side. So it's going to be a power to the right. So what they're going to do is you're going to get this Clemson D-line to shift back to the left, right? It makes sense. They're power to left. You're going to get this motion to the right. Try and fool these linebackers. But then you're going to get a run to the left. And what that did was, let me rewind this really quickly. What all this movement ended up doing is get this D-line to shift to the left so that we can create a numbers or shift to the right so we can create a numbers advantage to the left. So what you're going to have a tackle one-on-one just kicking out this D end. Then I believe it's a center and a guard. It might be a guard and a tackle. There's so much movement going on. Be able to go one-on-one against this linebacker and this safety. So that there's everyone's got a hat on a hat. There's no one
Mhm.
left to tackle James Conner on that side of the field. It's really creative stuff, and it's created with all of that pre-snap commotion going on, getting Clemson to shift their line the wrong direction so that they can create a numbers advantage. And you see this a lot in these Matt Canada offenses, and it's really fun to watch. So here's going to be an example of a similar thing where we're going to get a shift, and in this shift, instead of creating a numerical advantage, we're going to create a personnel advantage where we're going to take our tight end, and I think this is some sort of running back type, put them on the left, but we're going to have an unbalanced front with 2 tackles and a guard on the right side. And then, we're going to motion our running back type back. This line doesn't adjust, and then all of a sudden, we're going to run jet sweep with a huge personnel advantage to the right side for a huge play. So, speaking of the jet sweep, basically every single play in the Matt Canada offense has some sort of jet sweep tied to it. You will not see a snap. You will rarely see a snap where some dude is not motioning for a jet sweep. The possibility of some sort of jet sweep. Maybe aside from like 3rd and longs where it's not really a threat. Every single time there is a situation where a jet sweep could be a threat, you're going to get that look. So when you look at all their regular old runs, they have jet sweep looks, right? There are jet sweeps tied to it. So you're going to get, this is just a basic little gap run to the right, and you have that jet sweep tied to it. And what this does, I also think you have the blocking for it as well, which is fun. You have the weak side. Yeah, you have the weak side of your line where the jet sweep would go. They always have the blocking ready for it. So it's not just this guy motioning out a lot of the time. You have that, whether it's a tight end or a tackle, also blocking for it, which you have to always have guys on your defense account for it. So then what they'll do, this is literally the very next play. This is the very next play. No, it's not the very next play. I think this is 2 plays later. Really, basically the same look, but instead of 2 receivers on the same side, it's just balanced 2 by 2, right? Well, now you're going to get the jet sweep. And they don't account for it, and Russell Gage is able to get a walk-in touchdown, untouched. And it is just a nuisance for defenses to have to deal with these jet sweeps. So, okay, what happens if you just tell your defensive ends, hey, play the jet sweep. Hard commit to this jet sweep. So you're going to see here, Florida decides, hey, we're going to hard commit to this jet sweep. We're going to make sure that it gets shut down. Well, this is now the very next play. What Matt Canada does, he's one step ahead of these. It's a very if-then structure. We're going to run a counter right at this defensive end. We're going to want him to fly upfield so that we can get one of our guys from the left side to trap this dude and get a wide open counter, running him right at that defensive end. It's brilliant because on these counter plays, you want that defensive end to fly upfield and play that jet sweep because it plays right into the blocking structure of this counter run. And if Darius Geist doesn't trip up on this play, if he doesn't trip up on his own offensive lineman a little bit, dude, that's one-on-one with a safety. He could easily be gone.
Easily breaking that for a touchdown.
So what else does Matt Canada do? One of my favorite things that Matt Canada does, and this is one of the reasons why I now in like my dynasty leagues am much higher on Najee Harris than I was before, is that he does a really good job of setting up his running backs one-on-one against defensive backs. And if you looked at my running back analysis video a while back, you don't have to look at it, but long story short, one of my favorite things that I saw about Najee Harris is that one-on-one against defensive backs, he is extremely dangerous. That is where he breaks most of his tackles. So this is 2012 Wisconsin against Nebraska. This is the Big 12 championship, I believe. What they're going to do is they're going to have what looks exactly like zone split, right? Where you're going to have this tight end. Let me see if I can pull up the pen here. Yeah. This tight end on classic split zone run is going to kick out this D end, right? You're going to kick this guy out. All these linemen are stepping to the right, blocking down a traditional zone run. And this running back is running to the right. And if he sees a cutback lane, he's going to hit it. Right? Simple stuff. Shift clear. Yeah, there we go. But instead, this is really brilliant because this defensive end and this outside linebacker basically have all this contained unless you want Monty Ball right here, one of the nation's top rushers at the time, one-on-one against this corner. There's a lot of pressure on these guys on an outside run to contain. So what Matt Canada ends up calling is that they have like this counter tied to this split zone concept where instead of running your classic split zone, this tight end is going to come out here, but he's going to seal this edge inside. And then you're going to motion this receiver inside to crack this linebacker, which is going to create Monty Ball one-on-one with this corner, which is a huge matchup advantage for Wisconsin here. So let's get it run here. And this is exactly what I want to see with Najee Harris in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because if this is Najee Harris, dude, you could go look at all his highlights, like especially against Notre Dame, where he's hurdling D-backs, he's trucking them, juking them out. They have no answers for him. And this is exactly the type of concepts that Najee Harris would excel in. And this is the type of concepts that would give the Steelers some sort of identity outside of quick passing. So yeah, this is perfect for Najee Harris. I actually said, I quoted in my analysis, he is at his best in one-on-one scenarios against defensive backs. Will win around 8 out of 10 times in those scenarios in space. It's exactly what the Steelers need. And that's what they were missing with their current or last year's backfield with James Conner and Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell and all those guys. They just weren't really that dangerous in space. They were all right when you were just, hey, listen, let's just plug it up the middle. They get you 2 or 3 yards, but we really couldn't get any dynamic runs outside of James Conner, and he was inconsistent the entire season. So how else does this scheme really help Najee Harris? Well, the one thing that I was really scared of with Najee Harris, a system him going into, was a team that's just going to run 80 to 90% of their runs just zone blocking concepts, right? Like you've seen with the Rams a couple of years ago with Gurley. It was 60, 50% of their runs outside zone, then the other 30% inside zone, and then the other 10% is obviously the other run concepts, but they were basically scheme dependent, depending on if we get a specific look. Yeah, we'll run this blocking concept because we're creating a numbers advantage. I was scared of Najee Harris going into that type of system because I thought at Alabama, he did a really good job reading second-level defenders, right? Mainly the linebackers, and he did a really good job on duo runs, power, counter, which are all these gap running schemes. And Matt Canada has shown in his previous offenses really nice balance between running zone and gap concepts. So here's an example of just your classic pin and pull. Let's get the pen back. Oh, pen, where you at? There you go. We're just going to get a pin on this defensive end, and then we're pulling these guys around. Come on, clear. And this is just a nice little power concept. Pretty basic stuff. And I think that Najee Harris and the Steelers personnel really fit this type of run. I mean, we've been trying to do it, and it just hasn't worked with the personnel we had last year. Now that you have Najee Harris, you draft a couple of offensive linemen. You replace Marquise Pouncey, who was kind of washed towards the end of the season. I think that we can finally get back to this power football. And it'll really help out Najee Harris and the Steelers. So here's duo, right? Najee Harris is great on duo. I'll actually show it with the Steelers first. So this is one of Najee Harris's favorite run concepts is duo. So duo, you're going to get 2 double teams on the interior defensive lineman, and they're going to work to the linebackers. And the running back's job is to read the flow of these linebackers, right? We're running it. You can see this hole, right in the A gap. If they spill, then we're cutting it back. If they plug, then we're bouncing, and then if not, we're just shoving it right up the A gap. We're just going down Main Street. And the whole theory, right? You get your shoulders square to the hole and run it up here because we're getting these double teams work into the linebackers. And you can see Benny Snell does not run the play. He wants to bounce it. And yeah, there's a hole here, but the play is designed to go right up Main Street. Just take the yards, man. Take the yards. And I mean, as many Steelers runs, it didn't work. Common theme from last year. Here's another example. Here's James Conner this time. We're running duo. Here, there's a huge lane for a cutback. You could do a bounce here because both these linebackers are plugging the A gap. But as many Steelers runs were last year, didn't read the second level defenders correctly.
Mm-hmm.
What is Najee Harris's best run concept, and what is his biggest strength? His best run concept, at least for my analysis, was duo, and his biggest strength, reading these second level defenders. I went over this in my last analysis. Here's duo. You can see it. Let me rewind it real quick because that was really fast. Look at these linebackers. They're going to spill over the top. I think that's Patrick Queen. Spills over the top, creates a huge cutback lane. Here's an even clearer example against Auburn in 2020, last season. You're reading these linebackers. Where are they moving? Where are they flowing? They spill over the top. You see this linebacker? He spills over the top, creates a massive cutback lane. Split-second decision, he's able to see it and read these linebackers. He's really good at it. And this is exactly what the Steelers have needed for so long. So I think here's some more examples of the Steelers running backs last year kind of sucking at reading second-level defenders on duo. So this is duo here. You're not going to get this second double team here because the linebacker shoots the gap, right? So David DeCastro is responsible for this linebacker. If he shoots the gap, you kind of have to adjust on the fly. I forget the exact blocking terms. Look, you see this linebacker. It's clear as day. You can see him. Just watch him. Come on. Look at this linebacker. Spills way over the top. Look what it creates. Massive cutback lane. Obviously, as many Steelers runs, James Conner didn't hit it. It's not a terrible run. You got like 2 yards, but you had an opportunity for a huge play.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another example. This isn't duo. This is just, this is honestly, this blocking is so trash. It's hard to tell what run concept this is. It looks just like inside zone to the left. But Anthony McFarland just cut off the back of David DeCastro here. Like, you find the initial hole, great. But reading these second-level defenders and these second-level blocks, dude, you have a massive play, one-on-one against the safety, possibly for a touchdown, if you cut this off the back of your all-pro guard. But, of course, he doesn't. And it's like a 4-yard run. Like, it's not a terrible run, but you can see the reason why the Steelers were just like, no, we're not going to run the football. Because it's not there. What's the point?
Yeah, might as well not do it.
So, okay. Aside from being able to run duo much better than the current slew of Steelers running backs, I think the other thing that will really help Najee Harris out in the system is his receiving ability. So this is something that I really like for Matt Canada, and they're running this with Montee Ball. Imagine this is a running back with the receiving ability in Najee Harris. So you're going to start off, you're going to have quads to the right. Then you're going to motion all these tight ends or whoever these guys are, whether they're running backs, fullbacks, or tight ends. They look like a bunch of tight ends. Now you're going to motion it to trips left. Now you're going to motion Montee Ball out to make it quads left. So what you essentially did was that you take your initial look. Let me see if I can get back. Your initial look, right? You have quads to the right with your receiver, your number one receiver out to the left. And now you create the same look, but with Montee Ball, I'm pretty sure he's going to be matched up one-on-one against a linebacker here. Yeah, he's going to be matched up one-on-one against the linebacker, quads left. This is perfect for Najee Harris. I mean, you saw him. I wish I had the LSU clip where he does that. He catches that back shoulder touchdown against Patrick Queen against LSU. Like,
yeah,
dude,
I know exactly which play. Yeah.
Najee Harris is going to burn most linebackers one-on-one. That's why he got drafted number 24 overall, at least one of the prime reasons. He's insanely athletic and has really good body control. Matt Canada, if he's able to create these matchups with these pre-snap motions and pre-snap looks that confuses defenses, this could be huge for Najee Harris, not only for the Steelers, but for his fantasy production. This could create some serious receiving production. So, yeah, I think they actually do try to throw it to him. They just try to hit him vertically. Okay, they don't get one-on-one up top. But you can see the potential in their looks. And then clearly, other classic receiving examples. Here's an example from last year where you're going to get a sprint right, halfback in the flat. Najee Harris will easily be able to make a living off of these types of concepts. Okay, let me get out of here. All in all, I think that Najee Harris in the Steelers is a really, really good fit for this offense. It's a really, really good fit for Matt Canada. Matt Canada has a great track record with talented running backs and maximizing their production. But there's a problem, but there's a catch. The first thing is that with all this pre-snap motion, with all this guys moving left, right, center, for defenses to respect all this motion, you have to give these guys the football. And that means that they're going to take carries and targets away from Najee Harris. These jet sweeps that are tied to basically every single run in Matt Canada's playbook are going to get called, and going to get called a lot more than they were last year, which means that it's not just going to be Najee Harris outside zone 25, 30 times a game, like some of these other, like Derrick Henry's getting, right? I just don't think it's going to be that. Let me actually pull up this chart. I can prove it to you. Let me zoom out. Bang. Okay, so I looked at, in Matt Canada's previous offenses, the percentage of running back one carries that the highest producing running back got in Matt Canada offenses. The highest total percentage, which was Monte Ball in Wisconsin, he only got 57% of the total carries of that offense, which was easily the highest. Even running backs, freaking Darius Geis at LSU, 43%. James Conner at Pittsburgh, 41%. If you want to compare him to someone like Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, which people are expecting him to get that type of workload, Le'Veon Bell got 73.5% of the carries, 69% of the carries. Nice. 64% of the carries. All of these seasons, which were his best seasons, which were much higher than Matt Canada has ever given his number one running back.
Yeah, that's interesting to think, because I'm looking back at those college teams they had. Do you think it has to do with, like, Monte Ball, we talked about earlier, he played in that very competitive running back room, right? With James White.
So that's the caveat, right? Is that, okay, well, let's look at the running back. He had the talent in his running back rooms to split up these carries, right? Okay, you have Monte Ball, James White, and Melvin Gordon. Obviously, you're going to get all three of these guys involved. James Conner, Quadri Henderson was a talented receiver who you were going to give carries to. But at the same time, I don't really expect, especially with all this motion stuff, all these jet sweeps, Claypool to not get more than like 10 carries. For Deontay Johnson to not get more than 2 or 3 or 4 carries on the season, right? I expect all of their workloads to improve to complement all of this movement, right? It's just, even if Najee Harris gets 60% of the workload, I've calculated that already. He'll get about 245 carries. If he gets 4.3 yards per carry, he'll get 1,050 yards. Okay, if you account for the 17th game, that's 257 carries and 1,100 yards. That's at 60% of the total carries of this offense at 4.3 yards per carry, which is, and that's using the average of these Le'Veon Bell seasons, right? For the amount of carries the Steelers used in those years. I feel like that's a pretty favorable, this is just the rushing production, by the way. That's a pretty favorable outlook to look at it that way.
That would be a great rookie season.
Yeah, that would be, but Is he going to get 260 carries and average 4.3 yards per carry behind a Steelers offensive line that's probably ranked bottom 10 in run blocking right now? If you look at like PFF charts and all that, it's just a lot to ask for, right? It's just, is he even going to break that 60% of the total carries looking at the film and looking at the offense and what Matt Canada has done historically? And it's not like he doesn't have other talented running backs. I mean, 3 of the guys in that running back room, he's already coached. He's coached Anthony McFarland. He's coached Jalen Samuels, and he's coached Derek Watt. And you might be saying, oh, Derek Watt, scoff at him because he's a fullback. Dude, you look at that Wisconsin tape. He used Derek Watt. It's not like Derek Watt wouldn't get some carries. And even if it's only 10 to 15 touches on the season, that's still taking away 10 to 15 touches from Najee Harris, which could make or break him being the RB1 that he is drafted to be right now. So, okay, what else? Let me get to this sheet of paper. Yeah, so like the bell cow percentages that people are drafting him to have historically just haven't happened in these Matt Canada offenses. It didn't happen last year. It didn't happen in 2012. It didn't happen in any of these years. We just showed it. So you are kind of drafting a running back in a Matt Canada offense to be something that is unprecedented in his offense, which isn't terribly impossible. It's just you're drafting something that's not happened before, right? In his rookie season, might I add, with a coach that has a bunch of running backs he's already coached before that might know the system better day one. The last thing is that Najee Harris is going to be used as a decoy more in this system than in other systems. It's just going to happen. With all this misdirection and all this motioning around, Najee Harris is going to be the focal point for defenses to stop, which means that Matt Canada is going to use him as the eye candy in a lot of this. It's going to be the jet sweeps are the eye candy, and Najee Harris is the eye candy, and they're going to use play action. They're going to use shovel passes to guys like the Muth and Eric Ebron and Claypool when they're lined up inside, or probably Juju, all these dudes. So once again, that just takes away from some of the production that Najee Harris could have. And when you're going to compare him numbers-wise to to Derrick Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry's used as a decoy, but it's either play action or we're shoving it up the gut with Derrick Henry. There's really no in between. This offense is going to be a lot more creative than that Tennessee offense was last season. It's just that's how Matt Canada rolls. That you look at the film, that's just what he does. So all of that combined just, to me, limits his chances of being that top running back that he's drafted right now. So my prediction, I think that his ceiling projection for me is kind of similar to David Montgomery's numbers last season, where he's going to get 240 carries, get just north of 1,000 yards on the year. But the real X factor is the receiving work, because everyone knows us. We just showed it. He was drafted for it. He's a phenomenal receiver. Yes. And that is what you need for Najee Harris to be a true RB1 in fantasy football, and what is going to separate him from being just an above average back to being an elite running back.
I agree.
You got any thoughts, Steed, on all this?
I mean, I like what you said, like using him as a decoy, or in this role he's going to be used as more as a decoy. I feel like honestly that opens up the playbook a lot for the Steelers, because in past, especially last year, with the running game being non-existent, especially after the first quarter of the season, it was easy for defenses kind of sniff out what they were trying to do. Even if Najee Harris is not on that 1,100 yard projection, his receiving skills or just him being the decoy could still help the offense tremendously.
Yeah, I think the last thing that I wanted to mention in terms of his receiving output is that I really don't think he's going to be one of those Alvin Kamara-like receivers where
Yeah,
he's
no.
getting 8 to 10 targets a game, good 5 to 6 catches, and basically put up half running back, half receiver numbers. But I do think that Najee Harris will be put in positions to make big chunk plays in the receiving
Mm.
game, whether it be for touchdowns or whether it be vertically down the field, because that's the thing that I think separates Najee Harris as a receiver from even someone like Travis Etienne is that vertically down the field against anyone, even good coverage players like nickel defenders, safeties, and corners, he is a threat, right? If you want to throw a 50-50 ball to Najee Harris against a smaller defender, he can go up and win that 50-50 ball,
Yeah.
which you just don't get in a lot of other of these classic receiving backs, right? Like, you're not going to go and throw up a 50-50 ball against a corner to Travis Etienne. That's just a death sentence in the NFL. Even in
Yeah, no.
college, it's probably a death sentence. But Najee Harris is able to do that. That's the skill set that he brings. So, in terms of being an X factor as a receiver, red zone plays. Is he good one-on-one against a linebacker? You might throw him a fade. You might say, dude, we're going to throw you a fade. We might throw you a slant. So that's what will separate Najee Harris to be an RB1. So if you're projecting him to be a Derrick Henry type workload guy, I would be skeptical. And I wouldn't be drafting him for that. I would be drafting him to say, hey, this dude, once red zone comes, he's going to be a touchdown machine. He's going to be a big play machine in the receiving game. And he's going to bring an element to the Steelers' offense that they just haven't had in years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the offense it's going to take a huge step forward with now Najee Harris at the helm.
All right. All in all, really excited for Matt Canada. Really excited to see the creativity that he will bring to the Steelers, because it really does feel like Matt Canada has that potential to be one of those really creative run schemers. That's one of the things that I really saw on this analysis that I was excited about as a Steelers fan was I see some of these teams. I think the Saints are the best example with Sean Payton, where you see the little nuanced stuff where,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna use this personnel grouping to create this look up front so that we can get favorable leverage for our left guard, right? For a double team to work to a linebacker that sets a talented running back like Alvin Kamara free for a big play. I feel like Matt Canada, compared to all the other offensive coordinators we've had recently, is the one dude that in his run schemes brings that level of creativity to the offense. Whereas the other guys, they tried to be creative in the passing game. And, last year, for example, right? Last year, Randy Finkner, they had some of that Matt Canada stuff to start off. They had a lot of that, jet sweep. You saw Claypool would put up big touchdowns on these jet sweeps, and they were confusing defenses, and it worked. But then after like the first 3 or 4 games, it got stale, and it just felt like the Steelers just kept running. Oh, well, we went from having a really nice balanced running attack where we're using a bunch of different concepts to, okay, it's 60% zone, and then the next 40% is just a bunch of power. And we lost that creativity, that using these motions and jet sweep looks to create a favorable matchup. It just wasn't happening. And then they just didn't run the ball at the end of the year and just only threw quick passes. They just gave up on it. So I'm hoping that we can get that more balanced attack, that creative run scheme that we saw early in the season and that we've seen, especially in like the Wisconsin days of Matt Canada, when he had a team that in total rushed for like 3,000 plus rushing yards.
Yeah, that's absurd.
It's insane. I mean, dude, you could make the argument, even though Monte Ball was really good, Darius Geis was really good, James Conner was really good, Najee Harris could easily be the most talented running back that Matt Canada has worked with. And he's had great track record with these guys. Why not us? Why not Najee Harris?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge Najee guy, especially when he's in open space, man. He makes people look stupid. I think he'll be a tremendous back.
Yeah, that's the MO of this offense is get Najee Harris one-on-one against D-backs in space. He'll make things happen. All right, we're moving on. Do you want to do your top 10 list, or do you want to do the over-unders first?
We can hit the over-unders first.
All right. Over-under season, baby. We are in prime over-under season swing. We have the NFC East. The
Oh, God.
grimy, grindy. Who knows what the fuck is going to happen, NFC East?
You don't know what's going to happen in this division. You never do.
As Steed likes to say, this is the division where it's just a race to 10. Last year was like a race to 7. It was
If you got
who
7 wins last year,
wins?
you won the division. It's always with this division. It doesn't matter. It's so weird.
This division, I forget exactly what the stat is, but it's like, I know it's at least in the past 10 years. I think it's even more. They have not had a repeat division winner, which is pretty ridiculous. So last year, the division winner was the Washington football team. Their over-under was 5 wins. We both took the over, and we're clowning ourselves after because we're just like, what the hell are we thinking? This is a team that has like the second lowest line in the NFL. It hit. They made the playoffs. Let's start with them. Ron Rivera and the Washington football team, best name in football, 6.5. Is it? No, it's 8. 6.5.
Yeah, I was about to say, dang,
wins.
6.5. Hammering that.
Yeah, 8 wins for the Washington football team. Man, this is like right on the money. I'm going to throw this one to you, dude. What are you thinking on 8 wins for the Washington football team? You got an extra game, too. You got an extra game.
You do have the extra game. So the thing is, I love Ron Rivera. You know, he was a big, huge in that culture change and what they went through with the whole, you know, ownership and what was going on there. And for him to come out last
fiesta,
year,
professional clown fiesta.
And like we took over even knowing that, but we put our trust in Ron Rivera. We put our trust in that front 7 they had, and it panned out. And you got to think that front 7 just got even better because they drafted a guy from Kentucky. What's his name?
Jamin Davis. Yeah, great little pick there. That defense is absurd.
And at the end of the day, I don't really care, right? Like Fitzpatrick, you know, he's going to have his Fitz magic games where he throws 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and looks like an MVP. And then he's going to have those games where he throws 120 yards with 3 picks. But even now, though, if he does have those games, I still think they'll be in those games because of this defense. I think the defense just got a little better. I know they lost Darby, their corner or 2, I'm pretty sure. But I still love this team to compete in this division. And if I have to bank on them I mean, 8, that's an easy push for me. I don't see them losing less. I know they'll have a harder schedule because it's the first place schedule. But I'm just going to do what I did last year. I'm going to buy into that defense and hope they carry me to 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah, so this is a really tough one to pick. I'm also going to go over because I really like the defense. I thought that the Washington football team was one of the clear winners from the draft. They took a bunch of players that I really liked. Jamin Davis, like you said in the first round. I mean, me and you were both on the train that we thought that Jamin Davis was easily a first-round pick. To me, he reminded me a lot of Leighton Vander Esch, who the Cowboys took at 19 16. Or 20 that year.
Or something like that.
Something like that. And he played, you know, he was the type of guy, extremely athletic, rangy, and made a day one impact for that defense. I think that Jamin Davis has that same potential. And you look at his film from Kentucky, it is really some good stuff what he was able to do for that Kentucky defense. You pick up Diami Brown and Samuel Cosme, 2 more guys that have a ton of potential and could make a day one impact. And then even later in the draft, they pick up one of my favorite low-key corners in Benjamin St-Juste, who I think also has the potential to make a day one impact at corner. You know, man, like Cameron Curl was a really good little pickup last year for you. You pick up William Jackson from Cincinnati, an underrated corner. You still have Kendall Fuller. Like, holy crap, this defense is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it'll be top 3 in the league easily.
You know, you
on
filled
top of
in
Sweat and Chase Young.
Insane. And Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, some more first-round picks. Like, dude, the more you look at this roster, it's like this team has the best roster in this division, probably one of the better rosters in the NFC. You pick up Curtis Samuel in free agency. right? Like
That's true.
a nice little wide receiver pickup. Like they are stacked at every position. They even have 2 quarterbacks that I like, in Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm still saying, don't count out Taylor Heineke. Saw a report the other day that he's all right. I'm taking the over. Man, it's hard to be confident in it because of the quarterback situation and because it's the NFC East. You never know what's going to happen in these division games, but anything under 9.5, I have to take the over. I think this team has all the tools to succeed. They just needed to put it together. So I'm taking the over. Let's go on. We'll go Cowboys now. Cowboys over under 9.5. It's down half a game from last year at 10. We both hit the under last year, which hit. I'm going to go first here. I'm going to hit the under again. This is a team I don't hate the Cowboys. And I think that the Cowboys are a team that when you doubt them is when they are at their best.
True.
I like Dak Prescott. I think that Dak Prescott is an elite level quarterback. But they're basically on the exact opposite end of the spectrum from the Washington football team. This is a team that I think has a lot of similar problems to what the Chargers have had recently, where you look at their roster on paper and you look at the starting lineup and their stud players and you're like, wow, this team is really good. Like, why can't this team be a powerhouse? But then once you deal with the general adversity that every single team ever deals with in football, where you have starters get injured, it happens no matter what. The up next players, the backups, the guys that need to fill in, you don't get good contributions from these guys. And not only that, they play at a very below average level a lot of the time. Dude, these Cowboys teams in 2015 and 2016, the really elite level Cowboys teams, were getting guys that would come up from the end of the roster and make contributions in these football games and become reliable players for this football team. I haven't really seen that a ton from these Cowboys teams, especially on their defensive line. I know they had a lot of issues on that group last year, and they tried to sign some veterans, and it didn't work out. Mike McCarthy, I don't really know what I'm getting out of him anymore. It really feels like he's just yesterday's news in terms of the good offensive coaches and just good coaches in general. 9.5, I just think is too high for this team. Even at 9, I would question it. 9.5, I think it's an easy under for me.
I'm gonna agree with you. 9.5 is a lot, and I mean I always kind of like rooting for the Cowboys too. I know that getting Dak.
You're a low-key Cowboys fan.
I don't know, dude. I like Dak a lot.
You are. Just admit it.
Dude, because they were winning me money. Like you said, when everybody was doubting them, they weren't favorites, and I was like, dude, like this team is like not that bad on paper. That was like Leighton Vander Esch's rookie year too,
yeah.
But again, like that defense was so much better back then. And with Micah Parsons, is he going to change that defense? Yeah, probably a little bit, but that secondary is still a question mark for me. I just think if you're a quarterback going into Dallas or you see Dallas on the schedule, you're licking your chops saying, oh, okay, this is where I can throw 400 yards for. And especially, you know who their new DC is, right?
Yeah, it's Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. I mean, I don't think he's coached a good defense since what was last year of the Legion of Boom? I mean, I don't think he's coached a good defense since 2014. So and it's not like any of these players have the capability of being like a Legion of Boom. Maybe Michael Parsons with a Bobby Wagner, maybe, but like I'm still just not buying into that defense. I think as long as Dak is healthy, I think he's a shoo-in for comeback player of the year. And they're going to be competitive. You saw at the end of the year, they actually started winning some games. We're in the division race for last week. I mean, all you had to do is have 5 wins and you were in the race. But technically, they did play better, had some good games. I'm just with you. I think Mike McCarthy's yesterday's news, just how young the league is now, how young these new coaches are coming in, having their different spill in the game. Am I going to get a top 10 running back out of Zeke anymore? Probably not. That's more on the decline. I'm just out. I mean, Dak, I could see him throwing for 6,000 yards this season, though. I mean, if I'm buying stock into a receiver for fantasy, I'm looking at the CD Lamb.
Yeah, but if there's one thing that I think recent years have proven, it's that having a passing attack that gets a lot of yards does not lead to wins, right?
Oh
If
no.
if you
Oh,
go
trust me.
and win,
I know that firsthand with the
well,
Falcons.
yeah, the
Matt Ryan's
Falcons
always
have been one
top.
of the teams. They're always top five.
Matt finished top five in the every year in passing, and then here we are at 4-12. It doesn't matter. It just means that you're playing behind.
Yeah, basically. So like, congratulations, go ahead, throw the ball for 6,000 yards, but your defense is giving up 7,000 touchdowns. So
I mean, I'm rooting for Dan Quinn and that defense. I will root for him.
I'm not rooting against the Cowboys. I'm not buying him to win 10 games and win
Yeah,
this
I can't
division.
do that. Well, you see, like it's kind of the and I'm not even saying football because football team has like a low key pretty good offense on their hands where they're going to be able to move the ball. It just depends on quarterback play. Like Cowboys have the quarterback play, but when I look at the defensive end, I can see if the offense is not on its game that day, the defense could keep you in the ball game. I don't know if that defense for the Cowboys, unless like they just like write up some magical scheme and like just play out of their minds that day that they can't keep up.
They picked up Israel Mukwamu. Maybe he can get a couple of 3-pick games.
Yeah, against like Tom Brady or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy it, especially from some of the tape that they picked up Keanu Neal and DeMonte Casey, but what are you trying to do? Recreate the Falcons? Like,
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, what are we doing over here? We're going to do the Falcons because that worked so well with Dan Quinn the first time around. I mean, love Keanu and well, Casey got a little bad rap last year. He did get hurt very early, and I
I
think
like Casey. He's a good little player.
I think he's a good safety. A couple years ago, he led the league in picks, but Keanu's a shell of himself. What he is, he's lost a step or two after that Achilles, and like what player doesn't come back from unless you're Kevin Durant, you're not coming back from an Achilles injury and being like the same guy. Like it's just. I see how Cowboys fans can get excited by some of these signings. I just wouldn't put all my eggs in the basket on like this defense.
Yeah, I do think that the Cowboys could easily be a better team than they were last
I
year.
think they'll be better. Yes, I think this division will be a lot more competitive than it was. Like last year, they were competitive, but like competitively better. Where teams are like actually going to go over 500.
I'm just looking at this team. I'm looking at the coaching staff, and I'm pinning this team at like 8 or 9 wins.
It's Mike McCarthy for me.
I'm not pinning this team at an 11 or 10 win team. Like 11 wins, like dude, the Cowboys would have to go out there and play really well to win 11 games, and this defense would have to take 2-3 steps forward from last year.
I just think what Jerry Jones is waiting to do is, if it doesn't work this year, Mike McCarthy, he's going to get rid of him, and he's going to go straight to Lincoln Riley's office at Oklahoma and just try to give him the bag. And it's like, listen,
doesn't it feel like this is Mike McCarthy's last year with the Cowboys? I don't know why I'm getting that feeling.
I was getting that feeling in the last year. I was like, I could see Jerry Jones get rid of him now, but I think he went off like they did start playing better. Now, granted, they went through a lot of watermelons at the end of last year to get back into it, but I have that feeling too.
Real quick, for those who don't know, we went over a report on a previous podcast where Mike McCarthy apparently to pump the team up was smashing watermelons with sledgehammers. Don't know about that.
But the end of like Mike McCarthy's like time and for Green Bay, it kind of feels like it's that same kind of feeling for like Dallas. And what I get from a fill out from the fans that they're not truly buying into it. I think or at least they're buying more into just like Dak Prescott and the top end talent of the team and just praying everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I don't hate the Cowboys, but 10 wins is just too much for me. Let's move on to the Giants, the Giantos. Their over-under is placed at 7. I think I know what both of us are going to say. We're hitting this over. This is our Hooters team. 7 wins. Man, I'll tell you what, I really liked what I saw with the Giants at the end of last season. It's just the only question is Daniel Jones. Are we going to get a Daniel Jones that is able to not turn the football over and score touchdowns and win football games? That's the question. I don't know. To be honest, like, there were some games last year where I'm like, dude, give me Nathan Peterman. All right, not actually, but That's what it feels like. Dude, I look at that Bears game from last year, and it is atrocious. Daniel Jones.
Mm,
I like Daniel Jones coming out. I still kind of believe in Daniel Jones, but
I believe in him.
I don't think you can be blind to some of the stuff that he's put out on tape the past couple of seasons and how poor he has played at times. Because for every single time you've seen the flashes of Daniel Jones, you get 2 games of piss poor performance from Daniel Jones. But this is a roster that is ready to win now. Their free agent signings and their off seasons I thought was fantastic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this
Get
is a good
Saquon
team.
back.
This is a good team. Like you talk about the Washington football team being just that roster that's ready to be good, that's just a playoff team that needs a quarterback. But the Giants are in the same spot, and you get a whole game less on the price.
Yeah, I'm easily hitting this. This is my favorite. This is my team to win this division. I believe that. Like you said, I think the roster's fully, but it depends on Daniel Jones. And this is really, and I liked all the Giants' moves this offseason, and I thought they had a good draft. I'm pretty sure they even drafted, they needed a little more, maybe another edge rusher, and they got a talented one in Azeez Ojulari. Like he, I don't know about day one impact, but he could definitely make an impact on this team, and especially lining up on the other side of Leonard Williams. But going back to Daniel Jones, this is a team that, when Teddy Bridgewater wanted to get traded, or like reached out that he wanted to be gone after the Sam Darnold trade, this is a team that if I was them, I would have jumped over it. Not He doesn't have to come in and start, but like more for Daniel Jones to say, hey man, you don't have your place like set here. If you start playing like you do, like just inconsistent ball the whole time, we're going to put in a quarterback that's going to at least give us a chance to win at the end of the day with this team, because we think this team can do it. Now, kind of the same thing we were saying about Mike McCarthy. It kind of feels like that last year, unless he performs. That's it with Daniel Jones too. If he doesn't perform this year, you got to think he is out.
No, I 100% agree. It's actually funny that you mentioned Sam Darnold, because I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, why did we pass on Justin Fields and all that?" And I mean, no one's saying it for Mac Jones, but I think it should be said if you're making the same argument for Justin Fields. But dude, rookie quarterback has never won the Super Bowl. They haven't even made it to a Super Bowl. So I think that if you're drafting a rookie to win a Super Bowl this year, dude, you're way better off with Daniel Jones. Now, I like the move
Yeah.
that they made, though, because they traded down with Chicago, picked up an extra first-round pick. So now you sign Mike Glennon, who's a guy that I understand he's not the sexiest player ever, but for a backup quarterback, he's good. And he had some good games for the Jaguars last year. Dude, I think the Giants played their cards perfectly. Now that I'm thinking about it, unless you can trade for Aaron Rodgers, which if I'm Dave Gettleman, I am really going to try hard to do, because you get Aaron Rodgers, you're the second favorite, right? You're up there with the Bucks.
Yeah.
But now if the Daniel Jones experiment fails, dude, I've got a ton of draft capital to go ahead and either trade up for my quarterback, trade for a quarterback. I've got a lot of maneuverability because I just picked up the Bears' first-round pick. Dude, it's the freaking Bears, all right? They could go out there and be the new Texans for all that matter. I would not be shocked at all. Not actually, but dude, it's Matt Nagy. I don't trust Matt Nagy. I don't believe in Matt Nagy. I don't think he's a terrible coach, but I just think
like
he's
a
not
Kyle
really a
Shanahan.
dude with a great plan. I think he's just kind of winging it every week.
I mean, I like Joe Judge more than I do Nagy.
100%. And yeah, that's the last part about this team. I think that their coaching staff is there. Jason Garrett gets a lot of shit. I thought he did a great job last year looking at the tape of the Giants games. Joe Judge. What were you going to say?
For a team that couldn't run and because of the bad O-line, and you saw the O-line play get better, but Jason Garrett, I know like Saquon was out, but you saw Wayne Gallman put up some really good numbers.
Yeah.
And you saw Zeke drop off after Jason Garrett left, so maybe he just has a feel for that. Now you get Saquon, easily probably the most talented back in the league, with a not a half blind like offensive line that can actually compete. I mean, with Jason Garrett, he could put up video game numbers.
Do you want to hear something funny? Jason Garrett, in the last 7 seasons, has twice as many top 5 rushing offenses as Mike McCarthy in his entire career.
I mean, I just don't understand when Cowboys fans like are getting hyped for Mike McCarthy. Like, if I'm Zeke, I'm like, no, dude, like this is terrible. Like, when was the last time a running back like put up great numbers for Mike McCarthy? I mean, he just said it. Like,
Eddie Lacy, I think, had some good years. But even so,
before he
like, dude, it
turned
took
into
Mike McCarthy leaving to take Aaron Jones to that elite running back level.
and then you got to
I
get
just
someone
don't
better
trust
than
it.
that.
I don't
Yeah, I
think Mike
don't either.
McCarthy's terrible. I think he's a good coach. It's just, dude, you
I think the
compare him
game
to
is
all
kind
these
of
other guys. It's just
the
he's
game is
yesterday's
adapted.
news. All
Yeah,
right,
the
let's
game's
stop the
adapted.
Mike McCarthy slander. Let's move on to the last. So we're both taking the over for the Giants. Let's move on to the last team. It's the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, placed at 6.5 total wins. For me,
This was tough.
this is really tough because I am not a huge Eagles guy. I don't know about the Nick Sirianni hire, to be completely honest. I don't trust Nick Sirianni. If I'm picking head coaches down the list, he's bottom 5. Like, he's proven nothing to me. I think their front office made some huge mistakes and are way too power hungry, right? But there is one man that gives me hope. And that man's
Jalen
name is
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Because looking at Jalen Hurts' film a couple weeks ago, my God, for a rookie quarterback, mentally speaking, this guy like has it. And if there's anyone that's gonna like just carry a team, it's gonna be Jalen Hurts. And I'm not asking you to carry a team to the playoffs. I'm asking you just to be 500. I think this team has the talent to be 5. Dude, you look at their offense on paper. They add Landon Dickerson and Devontae Smith. Like, in terms of just 2 picks in the draft, that's 2 top 20 talents in the draft for me. Dude, this is tough. This is a lot tougher than I think people really think, right?
I know exactly what I'm going.
I really don't want to hit the over, though, because I just don't trust the organization. I think I'm going to do it, though. I think I'm going to take the bait. I hit the over last year. What are you thinking? What do you want? What are you taking?
See, when you were talking about the dysfunction of like the organization and the coaching hire and just maybe not having all the pieces, it kind of feels like that same kind of football team where we talked about last year. And I was like, I don't know why I'm going to do it, but I'm going to take the over. Just give me 7 wins. 7-10 for this Eagles team, and we're saying Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy, and I actually love their draft, and you get a number 1 playmaker for him, Devontae Smith, and I think their defense is going to be all right. They'll figure out some holes there and keep them in games. I think there's going to be a competitive team, and I wouldn't find it shocking if they win 7 games. I mean, dude, they start week 1 against the Falcons. Like, come on. Like, I'm taking the over. I'm going to go ballsy here. I'm going to take the over. I'm taking 3 overs, so I know one of those.
I hate taking 3 overs. The one thing, though, is that this division has no wins in it. Like, every over-under is so low.
Yeah, well, maybe we should just be taking the unders on every team.
Dude, I'm getting such a Falcons vibe from this team. I'm getting.
I don't have a Falcons vibe from this team.
I'll take the over, too. I'll take the over. Eagles, I've shot on you so much, but I'm taking your over. Don't let me down. Nick Sirianni, you got this. Come on, don't fuck it up. The thing is, here's the thing, Steed. Here's the thing. I felt like if I were the Eagles coach, I could win 7 games with that roster. If I was their GM, I'm thinking I can hire a guy. I can find the staff to win 7 games with that roster. That is, dude, their offense right now, like, it should be miles ahead of where they were last year, especially up front with how many guys they get back. And then you add Landon Dickerson, who was one of my favorite offensive linemen in the draft, one of my favorite offensive linemen in the past couple drafts. Jalen Hurts, I think, is a guy that's legit. Devontae Smith adds an element that is exactly what this offense needs, vertical threat down the field, kind of what you wanted Jalen Reagor to be to a certain extent. Now you can let Jalen Reagor kind of be that playmaker kind of dude, just put the ball in his hands. I like this team right now. I like this team. at least to win 7 games.
Question
So,
for you.
what's that?
Who will end the season with more touchdown passes? Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts?
Well, I think that the thing should be more total touchdowns because Jalen Hurts
Or
might have a
total
lot of
touchdowns.
rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
The thing is that Colts offense, I feel like is just easy to be a quarterback on right
I think
now.
so too. And I feel like if they're going to be up in more games, Jalen Hurts is going to be down. He could get some more garbage
I'm going to
time.
take Wentz just because I think that Colts defense, they got like a potential top 5 group. So you're going to be put in a spot to just score more. Plus, you got a stud running game, even though I think it might be closer than people expect. So let's move on. Last segment of the day. Steed, this is your segment here. Apparently, you've had a lot of trouble making this list.
It's tough, dude.
Steed's top 10 receivers in the NFL right now. Mr. Steed, I'm throwing it to you. Let's go from 10 to 1. Number 10 receiver in the NFL for you.
Okay, I think this is number 10. We're starting off with a bang. I'm pretty sure I had him at 2 or 3 last year, but I'm going with Michael Thomas for the Saints. This guy, where he was coming in as the top 3 receiver last year, to fall off the way he did, I understand he was very hurt and maybe like it has to do a little bit with Drew Brees, but like the production just wasn't there like it has been in the past. Like Slant Boy, he was running into some trouble last year, and I still think he can win the 50-50 ball. He's one of the better in the league. I mean, he's still a top 10 receiver in the league. That's no slouch, and I see him moving up, but just based off the production he had last year and the injuries, he's going to slide back like on my list a lot. And at 9, I'm going with one of my boys, Calvin Ridley. I mean, this is a guy, from his rookie to his sophomore season, you saw the production or the talent level, but he could just never really play a full season and be healthy. Well, last season he was fully healthy and was on a tear, over 1,000 yards. He had I can't remember how many touchdowns he had, but he was close to double digits, if not double digit. And he's playing most of that season last year as the number 1 receiver. As we all know, Julio only played
didn't he get hurt
season.
halfway through the year, though?
He played he got hurt for like 1 game. It was like I think he got hurt for Green Bay, where he was on and off the field and he didn't produce. But whenever he was, healthy enough to go, he was arguably easily a top 10 receiver in my book. I think he might have missed 1 game. That was it.
That's same for me. I thought that Calvin Ridley, he's the kind of guy that I'm targeting in all my fantasy football leagues, because I just think that you are getting a guy that has the potential to lead the league in receiving yards at
easily,
even a price for you as a Falcons fan, the 9th best receiver, right? Like around that price, 8, 9, 7, consistently, you're getting him around there. When I think that, to me, I think Calvin Ridley is like a top 5 type of guy.
Yeah, and also like he led the league last year in 15+ yard catches with 40. You just want to talk about big play ability, and like maybe other than Keenan Allen, who's the best route runner in the league? You can easily say Calvin Ridley.
I think it's, there's a top 3, maybe 4 that are just better than everyone else. The 3 proven are Calvin Ridley, not no order, right? Because I think Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, those are the other 2. You could easily make an argument for them over Calvin Ridley. For me, Calvin Ridley 3. Then the next 2 that I would put, Jerry Jeudy is insane at running routes. That guy's a technician. Basically, any receiver that went to Alabama not named Henry Ruggs is like, even Henry Ruggs has some nice little polish. He's just not top of the NFL. And then this might be a little homer, Deontay Johnson. Don't sleep on him. All right, who's number 8?
I got one of the better rookie receivers to come out for a while. At least like PFF graded him having a 90.5 receiving grade last year, and that's Justin Jefferson. Breaking the receiving yard mark for a rookie was incredible. I mean, his PFF grade was 2nd in the league to Devontae Adams, who had an insane year last year for Green Bay. I people might say, well, he's just a rookie. He has to have more seasons under his belt to say if he's elite receiver or not. Well, I already gave him an elite grade from last year easily, and I I don't see how you cannot put him in your top 10.
I agree. I honestly thought that you might have had him higher than 8, to be honest.
Oh no, it gets tough for me because like now I go with this is a guy I'm just like I've always
Number
been in love
7, by
with.
the way. We're at number 7.
Yeah, this has just been a guy I've been in love with even coming out of Ole Miss. It's just AJ Brown. I got him at 7. Um, I think now with Julio, you might see like his targets drop a little bit, but last year he put up an 83 receiving grade. Oh no, that was year one, and he ranked 10th. He generated 2.66 yards per route, and in his 2 years he's already played, and that's edging out Odell and AB in their first 2 seasons. So he's already in like very elite categories with those two guys. I think AJ Brown's easily just going to be one of these next star receivers and bust on the scene in year 3 for me.
Okay.
Next, I got another. I just think he's so underrated just because he hasn't had the quarterback. But at 6, I got Allen Robinson for the Bears. Playing under Trubisky and Foles and maybe with Nagy just hasn't really done him suitable. But you talk about a dude that doesn't drop a pass. I mean, you pull up Allen Robinson. He only had a 1% drop rate last year. And that's with 100+ targets. And with contested catches over 21, he's dropping the ball at 1%. I mean, that's just very unheard of. Since he joined the Bears, he's 5th in drop rate at 2.2%, first in contested catches at 61, and 6th in WAR. So, if you want a guy to go up and get it, Allen Robinson's your guy. And, now if you get a quarterback in there, either it's Andy Dalton or Justin Fields. If Justin Fields can actually like figure it out, I think Allen Robinson's really due for another big year.
I'm surprised to see Allen Robinson this far on your list, to be honest. I don't
I
think I'd have him
I, I
this high.
always I just think he's very underrated, and I want to give him some credit where credit's due. Like if you put him on even if you put him on like a Falcons team with Matt Ryan, you don't think he's going to be higher on some people's lists.
I think
just
if he
talking
were to
about
go to
receiver.
if he were on like the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, if you replaced him,
With Amari
I
Cooper.
don't even know because Amari Cooper gets slept on a little bit too.
Yeah, he does get slept on. At 5, I got my old friend Julio Jones still in my top 5. I think
Just can't let him go,
that
can't you?
I can't let dude. He dropped on my list though. He did drop a little bit on my list. I think I had him 2 last year, so he dropped a little bit, or I had him 3. It with Julio, it's the injuries, yeah, are a problem. The age is still up there. He's in 31, 32 now. Well, this probably be the last year he's going to be in my top 5. But when he is healthy, or when he was healthy last year, he was just still a baller, man. He still makes plays. Just a huge play potential kind of guy. And now you put him in a role with Ryan Tannehill. I'm ready to see where he goes. I don't know if he will ever regain that elite stature where he's like in the top 3, but right now I still think he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
He's just a guy that can do everything. Like, what can't Julio Jones do? You want to play him in any sort of role, he can do it.
Oh, easily. At 4, I think this is easily like everybody's guys like biggest jump into their top 10, and he cracks my top. I think I had Stephon Diggs at 10 last year, but I got Stephon Diggs at 4 because when you look at Stephon Diggs, first of all, that trade couldn't work better for both teams. But Stephon Diggs was always a very good player for Minnesota. And then when he went to the Bills and was that number 1 guy, he went from a very good player to an elite receiver. We all saw him have that crazy year. He was just 4 receivers of receiving a grade by PFF of 90 above in the regular season. He's one of the best contested catch receivers in the game. He posted a 60% catch rate on plays on contested catches. That's his highest since 2017. That's the second best mark in the league. I truly expect him to, play the same way, not if not better. Another year for Josh Allen in this offense. We all know the Bills are going to be scary, but with Stephon Diggs, they have a true number one elite receiver.
Yeah, for me, Stephon Diggs is like a perfect fit for that offense. Josh Allen likes chucking the ball deep. Stephon Diggs, really good vertical threat. And I think that they kind of maximize not just him on like a go route vertically. I'm talking like just all over the field, whether it's a corner or an out, one-on-one coverage, he torches people.
And number 3 is probably the best deep threat in the game, I would have to say right now, especially is Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times do you just turn on a Chiefs game and that dude breaks out an 80-yard touchdown? It's just really crazy how the way he works and how he does. And he's still so young too. He only has 5 years in this league, and he's got the best quarterback in the game, Patrick Mahomes. So I don't see how you don't put him in your top 3. I think he's very easily top 3, and I expect him to put his video game numbers up even more next year.
Yeah, no surprise there.
No surprise. And
you could argue that 3 is a little too low for him, to be honest.
Yeah, but I just like these first 2 a little more. 2 is D-Hop. I mean, D-Hop has been just kind of like how Julio was for a while. Everybody knew that he was just a top 3 receiver, and I feel like D-Hop gives off that same vibe too, because he doesn't really talk too much. I think his numbers took a little bit of a drop due to Cliff Kingsbury. He wasn't really asked to stretch the ball.
A little bit of a drop, like 1,400 yards ain't too bad.
Yeah, but
dude.
I'm just talking about like when you look at his average depth of target, it dropped almost 2 yards. But I think that's more due to Cliff trying to get him, in these screen sets and just trying to give him the ball a little more.
I think part of the problem too is that he was the only one that could actually make something happen on. Like when you tried to run a screen or whatever, the other guys just wouldn't come up consistently, and they couldn't really run the ball outside of Kyler Murray consistently. So
yeah,
I feel like they were almost forced to do that to a certain extent with D-Hop.
Yeah, and he's got D-Hop. The one thing with him, he's not going to drop the ball. Also,
not anymore.
Allen Robinson, he's really fixed that game, but now he's like a master at it. Last year, his drop rate was at 0.9%. That's very crazy to see. He broke the most tackles in his position last year. I still think he's an easy number 2, and especially
that is crazy to think about that he broke the most tackles at the receiver position. I mean, because when you watch him on film, it's not surprising.
He was skinny.
If you were to ask, because I think people almost think of DeAndre Hopkins as like a better Allen Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Or like a Dez Bryant almost, but you don't expect dude. He's good with the ball in his hands, and you don't really expect it. He's got some sauce. The other thing with him is that he leads the league easily in the best catches that don't count.
He does.
He's always got these crazy one-handers that are just called out of bounds or some bullcrap offensive pass interference or whatever.
Yeah, he does have those crazy catches. I know exactly what you're talking about. Number 1 is pretty easy. I think I don't know if he's your number 1, but my number 1 is he would not be.
He would not be.
I'm interested to see who your number 1 is.
I would take
Devontae Adams.
I haven't made my list. I was too busy doing that Najee Harris analysis. I think I would take both Tyreek Hill and D-Hop over.
Okay.
It's close though. It's close.
It's
like
close.
Pick your poison. They're all sick.
Yeah, true. You're not gonna really miss on one.
I think they're all in the same bucket. They're all in the same tier. I'm not unhappy picking any one of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at Devontae Adams last year, and of course it was insane due to also Aaron Rodgers having his MVP year and Devontae Adams being, his number 1 guy, his most trusted guy. But PFF had him graded at 92.2. That's the highest grade of any receiver. His WAR, his wins above replacement, was at a 1. I mean, that's crazy to see out of a receiver position. And he was averaging 2.96 yards per route run. based off those stats and him just, when you get him in the red zone, it just always seems like he's scoring a touchdown too. He's easily my number one.
Yeah, it's hard to cover Devontae Adams one-on-one. Like,
I don't
you
think you
just really
can.
can't do it. He is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he's just insane. But that's my top 10. Maybe a little shockers in there, like having Allen Robinson almost crack the top 10 or AJ Brown. But I,
I'm surprised for one guy especially that you do not have DK Metcalf in your top 10.
he was a question for me. I wanted to put DK in there. There's something about like because like a lot of people think DK is better than AJ Brown too. I feel like, but I still don't see that. I still like AJ Brown more than DK. I don't know what it is about DK's game sometimes, but sometimes like I just look at him. I'm like I don't really like it too much. It might be like he drops. Like he's an incredible player and makes incredible plays and is a freak athlete and is just a beast. But sometimes like he drops passes that I'm just like, dude, you got to catch that. At least catch that.
Okay, I guess the other shockers that I kind of want to hear your thoughts on. None of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receivers. Is that because you were a Falcons fan, or is there an actual reason?
A little bit, and that might have to do with Michael Thomas, falling all the way almost out of the top 10. I think I wanted to put Mike Evans in there. I don't, like I really can't put AB in there. Godwin was close. I'm pretty sure I had Godwin last year. At the end of the day, it's kind of like I like these other guys and them right now, especially. I like. Hold on,
It's tough, dude. It's tough.
Yeah, like I think this is one of the more hardest because like I was really considering Mike Evans, Godwin, and DK. I was like, I have to find somewhere to put these guys in my top 10. And I just at the end of the day I couldn't because like I want to put Ridley in there, but first of all, because I'm a Falcons fan, but also I think he just has better production than these guys.
I think Ridley's a top 10 guy. Okay, last couple guys. Amari Cooper, the schmoop. No Amari Cooper in there?
No Amari Cooper in there this year. I think he's a guy that could easily get back in there. I mean, dude, like again, another guy that's just on that top 10 border that should honestly probably be in there, but like you can only pick 10 of them. Like there's like 15 guys, right, that you could pick to be in this top 10, and just 5 of them get shafted, and it's just like I have to choose one of them, and I choose
Yeah.
Amari Cooper.
Okay, the last two guys. First this is just personally one of my favorite receivers is Keenan Allen. I understand him
Yeah.
not making the top 10. I'm not sure he'd make my top 10, but he's just the kind of guy that I feel like should be in the top 10. Like realistically
He
speaking,
should be talked about it.
if you were to take he's just he's not that young, flashy new guy. You know what you're getting out of Keenan Allen. You know he's a route running technician. He's got good hands. He's gonna put up good numbers. He's just not. He's not as flashy and he's not as new as some of these other guys, so he probably gets left out a lot. And the other
Mhm.
one is Scary Terry McLaurin for the Washington football team.
Yeah, I seem like a lot of people want to put Terry McLaurin in this top 10. I don't know. I just couldn't do it yet. Maybe it's I love his production so far, and I think he's definitely going to be a great receiver moving forward, and maybe one day. But like if we're choosing young receivers right now,
Oh, well, Steed, you cut out again, unfortunately. So I guess you're just thinking because Terry McLaurin's too young, he's just not able to crack that. I guess that's probably the argument for some of the other guys like the DJ Moores and some of the other rookie receivers from last year. But with that being said, that's Steed's top 10. That'll do us for this episode 53 in the books. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for listening. Peace out.